Now we have different pages and we have implemented our own custom routing functionality, but let's replace this one with official Vue Router. Vue has this library. This is the official routing library for Vue.js, and we are going to use this version 4, and this is aligned with the Vue version 3. So let's install this one. So the test console is stopped. Also the dev server is stopped. We are installing a new dependency, and we will run npm install vue-router, and we are going to install the version with the @4. So this is for Vue 3. Now let's run our tests, and let's also run the server in development mode, and refreshing this page, and the application is loaded. Now let's use Vue Router, and we will do our implementation in main.js. Just like this internationalization library, we are going to add this routing library as a plugin. So we are going to import dependencies from Vue Router, and the first thing we are going to import is create router function. And let's have an array. Let's call this one as routes. This is an array, and in this array we will have objects, and these objects will have path and component. So we are going to import homepage from pages homepage, and here we can set the path. The root path will have the component of homepage, and we will repeat this for the next component. So we will have sign up page, we will have login page, and user page. So this is for the home page, copying and pasting this one. This one is for, let's say, the sign up. So the component will be sign up page, and the next one is for the login, and this is for login page, and the last one is for this user page. But in user page there is the user ID in the path, and that part is dynamic, and we define the dynamic parts like this: :id. Now we have the routes array, and we are going to run create router, and this is looking for options, and the options is having this routes array, and the next one is it is looking for history, and for history we can use a couple of options, and for this one we are going to use create web history, and we will call create web history at this line. And this is creating let's call this one as router plugin, and we can use that plugin just like using this i18n right here. So we are creating an array of routes object with the path and the component, and we are creating a router based on this array, and we have this history option, and we use this router plugin in the application. Now in app we had our implementation right here for the navigation. Now we are not going to import these components, So just removing them. All we need is this language selector. It is independent from the routes. It's always visible here. So just removing the pages, sign up page, login page, and the others, and also removing them from our div here. Now we are going to use a component coming with the Vue Router, and that one is Router Vue. So this is going to be filled with the corresponding component based on the path. So you can consider this one as a placeholder, and this is going to be replaced with the exact component for that matching path. And also we are going to update these anchors. Now instead of this anchor, we are going to use router-link. And let's close that one here, router link. And we need to update this component. We no longer need this click handler. We are not going to handle this navigation by ourselves. We are leaving it to Vue Router, so removing the click handler, but also updating this href. The router link component does not have that attribute, so the corresponding attribute for the href is 2 in this one. And let's repeat the same thing for the other anchors. So this is router link, removing the onClick handler, replacing href with 2, doing the same thing for the login link, and replacing the anchor with router link. So saving all these changes, now the application is restarted. Let's not focus to the test console at this point. The tests are going to fail because we are using a new plugin, and in the test we don't know anything about that one. We will update it, but let's see this one in action on the browser. Now if I click the sign up, the page is navigated, and if I click the login, it goes to the login page, and the page is not reloaded, and we can confirm that by changing the language. Here we can see the sign up is translated, and if I go to sign up page, here it is translated like that. The page is not reloaded and the state is kept there. And if I click the image, that is also working. By the way, when we are implementing the routing functionality, we have seen how we can use the hash routers, and with the Vue Router it is easy to switch between current routing functionality and the hash router by just importing this create web hash history. So if we just replace this one, now the URLs are having the hash. Here we can see the navigation is having the hash URLs. So we don't need to update these two parts with the hashed URLs too. So the Vue Router is handling all the necessary changes based on the history option we are using right here. But let's go with the web history. So saving this one, just deleting this part and refreshing the page, and the navigation is now using the HTML5 routing. Now let's fix the tests. The first thing we are going to do is, let's open the app spec. Here we are importing the i18n plugin, and just like this one, we are going to use the router. So in application, we are using i18n and using router, and we are doing the same thing in our test while rendering the components. So first, let's extract this part as a separate module. So we did the same thing for the locales, the i18n library. So let's create a new folder for this one, and let's call this folder as routes. And in this one, we will have new module router.js, and just pasting the part I copied, but we need to update the paths. This is relative path, and currently we are in the routes directory, so we go up one directory to reach to the pages folder. And from this module we are going to export this router, and we can export like this: export default router. Now in main we are going to import router from routes router, and we are using that router right here. So let's save all these changes. It's not going to fix the test, but we can confirm the functionality is working on browser, so it is working fine. Now we are going to update the tests. So here in this app spec, let's import router from routes router, and we are going to use this plugin right here. But this is not going to fix the tests. First, let's see what's going to happen. So this is not working, and we have different error cases this time. This is not fixing the behavior itself, because this routing library is working asynchronous. So in this setup, we must be calling this routing libraries, this routers, is ready function. So this is an async operation, so we must be awaiting at this line. So when we call the setup, we are sure at this point the router is ready, and to have await here we will use async in the setup function definition. But also we are not going to use this window history push. Instead, we are going to use, after render, we will call router, and we will replace the path with the one we are having as a parameter. So for instance, we will be opening the sign up page, login page, so this is going to be updating router's path and waiting until the router is ready. Let's refactor these tests too, because now the setup is async, so we must be awaiting at this line, so the function must be async too. And also we do the same thing for the others, changing all tests to async await setup. And in this one we are already having this async, but we are not awaiting at setup. And also in this one we are going to await at setup. So saving this one. So we have 4 test cases are failing, and if we check them, one of them is this one, it displays homepage when clicking brand logo, this one. And the others are, it displays login page after clicking login link, and these are also failing. So basically the tests having the displays that specific page is failing. This is occurring because of the async behavior of the routing functionality. Again, here we are clicking the link and we are querying the existence of the page, but instead of query by test ID, we will use the async function, which is going to wait for this test ID to appear, and this one is, instead of query by, we will use find by. So we are going to await here. So this is going to wait for that page to appear, and we will do the same thing at this line. Find by test ID. So saving this too. And here we can see all tests are passing. Now we replaced our own implementation with Vue Router, and this enforced us to update our tests. Previously, we have seen how easy to switch between Axios and Fetch for the API request, and we didn't need to do anything in our test because in the test we were not dealing with the internals. But now the internals is changed and it is bringing new requirements to us, so this is causing this refactoring in our test functionality. So to have a maintainable test, we try to avoid dealing with the implementation details as much as we can, but it is not always possible to foresee the behaviors of the libraries we are using. So now we have completed the replacement, and now we are using this routing library in our application.